What's up, guys? This week, I want to do a video on some current events instead of my normal economics or philosophical videos. And I want to try to answer the question, why are we still in Afghanistan? So last month, Joe Biden made a public announcement and said that starting on May 1st, he is going to start removing American troops from Afghanistan and have all of American troops gone by September 11th, putting an end to our 20-year war in Afghanistan since 9/11. Now, immediately after this happened, both the Afghani government and the Taliban were very upset. They were incensed. They were angry at us. Why? Why would the Taliban be angry that America is leaving Afghanistan? We're supposed to be their enemy in Afghanistan, aren't we? We've been waging war against them for 20 years. Why would they be mad that we are leaving Afghanistan? The media never told you why, because the media is lying to you. What happened is, over a year ago, Donald Trump actually got the Taliban to the table with the Afghani government for a trilateral agreement with the United States to put an end to hostilities. And part of the agreement was that all American troops would be gone from Afghanistan by May 1st. Not September 11th, 2021, May 1st, 2021. So Joe Biden saying that he was going to start removing was already a break in the deal, because Trump promised that the troops would already be gone by now, by 2 weeks ago. It gets worse than that. Trump promised that all American soldiers would be gone from Afghanistan. What Joe Biden promised is that only 85% of American troops will be gone from Afghanistan. The truth is, 85% of the American forces in Afghanistan will remain as independent contractors, military contractors, things like that. It will just be official U.S. troops that will be leaving, which is only about 15% of our forces. So the majority of American force in Afghanistan is remaining in Afghanistan. So Joe Biden is breaking the treaty that America, Afghanistan, and the Taliban government had with each other. That's why the Afghani government and the Taliban are mad. It gets worse than that. So what happened is, this break in the treaty sent a ripple effect throughout the entirety of the Middle East, not just Afghanistan. And what it did is it told all nations in the Middle East that Joe Biden is not going to honor any of the agreements that the Trump administration had set out. And the Trump administration has actually put together a lot of peace treaties in the Middle East. Now, you probably didn't know, if you only watch mainstream media, you may not know about these peace treaties because the media didn't tell you about it. You know what they say, if you don't have anything nice to say, don't say anything at all. The media, when it came to Trump, was the exact opposite. If they don't have anything bad to say, they don't say anything at all. And there's nothing that really there was nothing really bad that they could say about Donald Trump and the Abraham Accords. The Abraham Accords were a series of treaties and agreements between Israel and various other Muslim, Islamic-centered countries. And it was close, by the end of Trump's term, close to a dozen countries had signed on to it. And these agreements were basically to end hostilities, open travel between the countries, start accepting Israeli stamp passports, opening airspace, basically peace. Peace in the Middle East. Trump brought peace in the Middle East to basically a region that people said would be at war forever, that could never be done. And Trump did it. And basically, Trump did it through several methods. Firstly, he drew a red line, a line in the sand, an actual line in the sand, not like what Barack Obama did, where he drew a line in the sand, and then when you cross it, he sends you billions of dollars on a pallet of cash on an airplane at 4 o'clock in the morning. No, he actually drew a line in the sand, and when you broke it, he shoved a Tomahawk missile up your ass and then laughed at you on Twitter about it. Just ask austere religious scholar al-Baghdadi about that. He knows. So that's one way Trump did it. The other way he did it was through the economy. Trump had put together the greatest economy of our lives before the coronavirus and Democrat governors and Rhino governors destroyed that economy. He put together the greatest economy of our lives. And that's not my statement. That is Jim Cramer's statement. He said that, the greatest economy of our lives. And basically, all these Middle Eastern countries wanted to be a part of that economy. And if you are not willing to make peace in the Middle East, peace with Israel, then Trump was not going to allow you to be a part of that economy. So all these countries that were previously aligned with Iran had said, okay, we are going to abandon our relationships with Iran to join in a relationship with Israel because that allows us access to the American powerhouse. And that's how he did it. He did it through a red line in the sand, peace through strength, and a superb economy. So, who gets mad by everything Trump did there? Well, obviously, the easy choice is the military-industrial complex. Military-industrial complex wants conflict continuing in the Middle East because they make money that way. They make money. I don't know if you can hear that. My air conditioner just kicked in. I don't know how loud it is. So the military-industrial complex makes money by selling arms in the Middle East. They keep conflict going. They actually they arm both sides against each other because it's just good for business. I mean, Trump came out and said this openly at the beginning of his term when he was still new to the whole thing. He's like, oh, we're going to sell them the greatest missiles. We're going to make so much money. They're going to protect that oil. There you go. There's another one. The oil industry. The media likes to attack the oil industry. Truth is, oil industry does not benefit from the continued war in the Middle East. The oil industry benefits from Trump. Trump, he put together our economy by making us energy independent for the first time in over half a century. Instead of us having to rely on foreign oil, we were pumping out oil here in America and our allies in Canada and I don't know, wherever we're getting oil from, pipelines, etc. And of course, Biden shuts down our pipelines. Democrat leaders are shutting down our pipelines. Whitmer just shut down or just attempted to shut the pipeline down in Michigan. A hack shut down the Colonial Pipeline across the East Coast. You know, we went from energy independence, the greatest producer of energy in the world, to now having Jimmy Carter lines and oil prices out down the block in under 100 days. It's insane. So, that's my cell phone. So now that we are once again dependent on oil from outside the United States, the military-industrial complex will be kicking up again in the Middle East. But it's not just the military-industrial complex. It's more than that. Who else doesn't like what Trump was doing during his term? I mean, I think it was Voltaire who said, if you want to know who controls you, just figure out who you're not allowed to criticize. So who are you not allowed to criticize? You turn on the media, you turn on the news, and who are they not criticizing? They can criticize the military-industrial complex all day. They criticize the oil industry all day, but you don't see politicians, you don't see news anchors, you don't see famous actors criticizing one specific group of people, the pharmaceutical industry. Now, I know what you're saying, but they do criticize the pharmaceutical industry. I hear news reports about the dangers of the AstraZeneca vaccine. I hear news reports about the dangers of the Johnson & Johnson vaccine. Johnson & Johnson. Now, let's look into that. Where are the dangers of the Johnson & Johnson vaccine? 7, 8 people got blood clots after taking the Johnson & Johnson vaccine. If you look at the actual numbers, the number of people who get the blood clots after getting the Johnson & Johnson vaccine is the same as the number of people who get blood clots before taking the Johnson & Johnson vaccine. The vaccine itself is absolutely irrelevant. It's just coincidence. Again, YouTube, I am not saying anyone is getting blood clots from the Johnson & Johnson vaccine. It's perfectly normal with the rate of blood clots throughout the general population. So why are we attacking Johnson & Johnson for the blood clots? Now, what's the number of people who get blood clots after taking the Pfizer vaccine, the Moderna vaccine? It's closer to 300 to 400. Why aren't we talking about that? Like I said, it's the same rate as people before they get their vaccines. It's irrelevant. It's purely coincidence. So why are we attacking Johnson & Johnson and not attacking Pfizer? Because Pfizer is the biggest lobbyist in Washington. Well, not just Pfizer. The pharmaceutical industry is the biggest lobbyist in Washington. Maybe. I could be wrong there. Maybe they're the second biggest behind the military-industrial complex. They're one of the biggest. But they are the biggest advertiser in the media industry. They're the biggest advertiser on the news. If you look at the Super Bowl, every other commercial is the pharmaceutical industry at this point, because they are the biggest advertisers. So the media will not attack Pfizer. They will not attack Moderna. Instead, they'll attack Johnson & Johnson. Why? Because Johnson & Johnson is corporate competition for Pfizer. If they can destroy trust in the Johnson & Johnson vaccine, that sells more Pfizer vaccines. Look at other drugs that we see that the media attacks. They attack ivermectin. They attack hydroxychloroquine. These are completely safe drugs that have been being used for decades without adverse side effects, that have been proven to be extremely effective against dealing with COVID-19. But they attack it all day long. Why? Because it's competition to Pfizer. These are drugs that are on the open market. They cost like 6 cents to make, but Pfizer makes $19 for a COVID vaccine. Moderna makes $30 for a COVID vaccine because they can't make money off of HCQ and ivermectin. It's corporate warfare. So let's go back to this war on drugs. The war on drugs, Trump did it very differently than what we saw with previous administrations. Previous administrations, war on drugs, they went after the little people. So, I mean, Doug Benson did a documentary on Netflix many years ago about living in California, where California marijuana is legal. So he would go buy his drugs, and then standing outside the dispensary would be the federal government waiting to arrest people, because even though it was legal in California, it was not legal on the federal regulations. So they would arrest people for breaking a federal law. You notice that Trump wasn't doing that. Trump wasn't going after the end user. Trump wasn't going after the little guy. Trump was going after the industries. He was going after the pharmaceutical industry. He was going after the big-time drug dealers. And so a lot of the regulations he put in, a lot of the executive orders he put in were directly against the pharmaceutical industry. One of the important ones he put together... Oh, I got something stuck in my throat now. One of the important ones he put together was making sure that the pharmaceutical industry could not price gouge consumers. And of course, that was one of the first executive orders that Biden overturned. Of course, he's in bed with the pharmaceutical industries. The other thing that Trump did was starting to put an end to the wars in Afghanistan. Going back to Afghanistan, why are we still in Afghanistan? Because Afghanistan is the largest producer of poppy in the world. And poppy is the source of opium. Opium is opioids. Opioids is basically the pharmaceutical industry's bread and butter. So if you're with the pharmaceutical industries, you want to get rid of someone like Trump, who goes after your base. So he's going after the pharmaceutical industry by getting rid of opioids. Trump made a huge push to try to end the opioid epidemic in America. So we're not leaving Afghanistan. The entire quagmire has exploded back up in the Middle East. I guarantee you, we're probably going to... I said that Biden is going to remove 15% of coalition forces out of Afghanistan and leave the other remaining 85% in military contractors and independent contractors. I bet you he's probably going to keep those 15% as well. He's going to renege on it all because he's going to use the chaos in the Middle East right now to stay in Afghanistan. And they're doing it for one purpose only, and that's to keep the opium trade going. Now you can say, oh, you could be a dumb idiot like Geraldo Rivera, who says that, we don't want to leave Afghanistan because it gives the Taliban access to opium and we don't want giving them access to opium. He's an idiot. He doesn't know what he's talking about. Taliban are religious fundamentalists. They hate the opium trade. Anytime that they get access to the opium fields, the first thing they do is burn them all to the ground. It's why we have troops in Afghanistan protecting the opium fields in the first place, to prevent the Taliban from burning it down. So if we left Afghanistan, the opium would disappear, pharmaceutical industry would hurt, and they don't want that. So that's it. That's why we're in Afghanistan. That's pretty much why war is re-exploding across all of the Middle East. It is the Joe Biden administration. It is everything. It is them undoing all the great progress that Trump had done during the last 2 years of his administration. Peace in the Middle East, all gone now because of Joe Biden. Anyways, this was the first current events video that I did. I try to stick to philosophy and economics. I don't really want to do current events, but with the current stuff happening in Israel right now, I felt it was more relevant than ever, especially with the announcement of the withdrawals in Afghanistan. So I did say a couple of weeks ago that I wanted to do something on the 10th Amendment. Obviously, there were other issues I'm talking about instead, so I'm not going to do a thing where I'm going to say what I'm going to talk about next week because I don't know if I'm sticking to that schedule anymore. Anyways, peace out, guys. Don't forget to tune in next week where we can continue. Have a good day.